Welcome, or welcome back if this is your first time to the channel. On this particular hit, we actually combined the Mongrel Auxiliaries and Mongrel Squad into one joint hit. This allowed the Mongrel Auxiliaries to learn from the more seasoned Mongrel Squad players and for us all to work together. This is my very first post-edit voiceover on the channel, so I do want to apologize for the audio quality up front. I do have a better mic on order, or I will soon, and that should improve, as should my voiceovers as I get more experience doing them. The reason I had to do this for this video is because when I originally recorded this footage during the gameplay itself, nobody's voice recorded, and I did figure out why later, but for this particular video, that necessitated a post-edit voiceover, so that's what I'm doing. And as you can see on this day, our leader, Zero Dome, leader of the Mongrel Auxiliaries, had assigned me to fly the Aegis Mantis, which is the only ship in Star Citizen that can both dampen and snare. What you just saw me do was arrive over the planet Lyria and deploy a snare. It is important to keep in mind when you do this that if there is an armistice zone, if you encroach on the armistice bubble in any way with an active snare or an active dampening mode on either the Aegis Mantis, Cutlass Blue, or now the Scorpius Antares, that armistice zone will actually cancel your QED or your quantum enforcement dampener, and you will lose the snare and or dampening field. On this particular day, we were doing this joint operation between Mongrel Auxiliaries and Mongrel Squad when one of the members of the Mongrel Auxiliaries, Frank Unit 27, was scouting on one of the moons of ArcCorp, Lyria, which is what you're looking at there below, and he found a Hull C sitting at the orphanage. While he was there monitoring the Hull C to see what it would do, this Aegis Reclaimer, which we believe was in a party with the Hull C, jumped in. It was really important that before we made our presence known that I show up, since I was assigned to fly the snare ship and deploy the snare to prevent the Aegis Reclaimer from realizing that they needed to jump away. For those of you that don't know, the way that a snare works that's different from a regular dampening bubble is that it actually puts up a 40-kilometer bubble, so 20 kilometers in every direction from my current position here in the Aegis Mantis, versus a 4-kilometer bubble, which would be 2 kilometers in every direction for an Antares or a Cutlass Blue, that prevents anyone, including your party, from jumping to quantum. The icon that you see in the upper right hand of the screen that looks like a quantum drive symbol with the no arrow or no slash through it is what lets you and everybody in your party know that there is an active quantum dampening field. For this video, we are in the 3.18 PTU, which means that the doctrine and tactics have changed a little bit. You will see that some of us are using distortion weapons, which are meant to take down shields and put distortion damage into internal ship components, which can eventually shut down those components and the ship entirely, which is what you're seeing here in the beginning. However, like I said, the doctrine has changed. For the most part, there will no longer be any more extortion or negotiation. We're simply going to brick or soft death your ship, as you're about to see here. And then we're just going to take the cargo, like real pirates. This was a bit of a special case because this particular reclaimer started in the atmosphere. We chased the reclaimer into orbit. The disabling effect of the distortion weapons and any EMP ships that might have participated caused the ship to become disabled and begin to fall into the gravity well of Lyria, and eventually, as you will see, the ship has gone a soft death. However, this is not guaranteed, and it's highly dependent upon the health pool of the ship itself. In the case of the Aegis Reclaimer, it has quite a bit of health. So as you're about to see, it's going to crash, but the crash itself causes a soft death, and what we were waiting for and hoping against was to see if any subsequent impacts with the terrain would cause a hard death. So you might be wondering, what is the difference between a soft death, or a bricked ship, as some of us have come to call it, and a hard death? And the answer to that is with a soft death, and there it is right there, that crash caused a soft death. But with a soft death, you still have access to the doors, the elevators, and the ship still works. It just, the engines don't work, the thrusters don't work, you can't take off, you can't fire weapons, you're pretty much just dead in the water. If you're in 0G, that means that the gravity no longer works also, except in certain elevators like the rear elevator of the Reclaimer. And that means that you'll be fighting in 0G, both the boarding party and those being boarded. Now right here, we were just hoping, we were all just laughing and hoping that two things would happen. One, it would not hard death, and two, that it would come to rest right side up. So if it does hard death here, in some cases we're going to lose quite a bit of the cargo. It's just going to disappear. That also would kill the crew, unlike a soft death, which would leave any player crew alive. However, if they're NPCs, as much of you know now, the NPCs die. Players do not. And look at that, another happy landing. We got lucky with this one. It just happened to land right side up. In this particular case, the crew had actually survived this crash landing, and it was up to our boarding party in the Cutlass Blue that you're about to see move in to enter the ship by any means possible. Usually with a Reclaimer that's like this through the top airlock, and assault any players that might be inside, incapacitate, or in most cases nowadays kill those players, and then after that we are free to do what we need to do. As you can see here, I'm actually leaving the planet and I'm headed to Area 18 because pretty much as soon as the boarding party realized that we didn't have a prize ship, we didn't have a means to load the 199 SCU of Laranite that we actually found on this Reclaimer, and I and a couple others realized that since this was the PTU, we actually all had Reclaimers. So, because I'm the one that spoke up about that, Zero Dome had me go get mine, which is what I'm doing here. This was my very first time flying the Reclaimer, and it's a big ship, so it handled like a big ship would. And made a little bit of a noob mistake here in the heat of the moment by not going to the station in orbit above ArcCorp, which would have been much easier. Because with a big ship, getting out of the gravity well and out of the atmosphere is much more difficult than with a faster, smaller ship. But live and learn. I did get the Reclaimer and head straight back to Lyria, and you see me here landing the ship just prior to all of us moving the cargo over. There are actually several things happening here that aren't immediately obvious. One of those is that we have quite a few light fighters that are covering for the rest of us, because the thing about piracy is it's not safe. There's nothing about it that's easy or safe. And at any moment, you could have a bounty hunter or a member of a player's party or their friends crash your party, and instead of it being a nice leisurely cargo transfer, it turns into quite a fight. One of the required and very necessary skills of a pirate is to be able to understand the ships that they're hitting and the ships that they're using to pick up a prize like we are here, and to be able to quickly transfer cargo using the tractor beam and work together with their org mates to do so in an efficient manner and as fast as possible. As you can see here, 199 SCU of anything is going to take a little while to load, so you need a big ship. Also, in the process of moving cargo around, there's a chance you could get hurt. That's why I was healing there. And right here I made a critical error. You might have noticed I just took my helmet off to drink because my hydration was getting low. But as you'll see, I forget to put it back on. I did not realize what happened later until I rewatched the video, but you'll see that that was actually a serious mistake that I'll need to learn from. So right here I decided to build a little wall in front of me. Pirates being pirates, we are going to crack each other's skulls sometimes, and I believe that's what was happening here. I got knocked over a few times by some of the boxes, so I just built my own little wall in front of myself there to prevent that. Throughout this entire hit, we were actually having a lot of problems with the elevators on the reclaimers, and just being able to get in and out of them in general, which is why you saw when I actually came back and arrived back at Lyria, the target reclaimer was actually hard deathed because they tried everything to get inside and get the hatch open, and they couldn't, so they had to hard death it. Right here, I try to go up to the habitation deck, and instead I go down to the ground. Now, that normally wouldn't be a problem, except if you remember, I took my helmet off and I forgot to put it back on. And I did not notice the little timer there at the bottom left that shows me my estimated time of survival, which wasn't long. So what happens? I get incapacitated. Noob mistake. An even bigger issue was that my colleague there that was helping me load the cargo was not able to get up to this particular deck at first until we got creative and figured out a way to get him up here. Once he did, he was able to res me, and we were able to continue with the operation. One of the biggest reasons why this was a problem was because I was the owner of the ship, and as the owner of the ship, I have to be the one to sell. So I was going to have to be revived to make this a successful hit. While I was down, what you didn't see off camera was that they actually were able to move the ship over to the Hull C and load its cargo as well. So now the cargo hold of our reclaimer is quite full, and we are headed to the orphanage on Lyria to sell the cargo. Unfortunately, again, we had some issues with getting the elevators to work properly on our reclaimer, so we had to get creative here and do a little bit of a transfer of each other. So the way we got around that, as you saw, he stunned me, used the tractor beam to bring me back up. Once I was unstunned, I got to come over here and pop him in the head with the Coda pistol. Nice to know it takes one shot at close range. And he's incapacitated. Clearly I couldn't stun him the way he had stunned me because I'm not down there next to him. So I had to incapacitate him and use the tractor beam to bring him up. And then res him. Once I do that, we're able to go over to the elevator, and after many tries, get it to go down to the surface of Lyria to be able to sell our cargo. I do hope everybody enjoyed this video and it gave you something to do while we all wait for 3.18 Live to be fixed. And if you're at all interested in piracy, please do follow the link in the description to the Mongrel Auxiliaries, which is a casual auxiliary of Mongrel Squad. I do want to say thank you to everyone who watched the video and ask that you please like and subscribe and share the video. It really does help the channel out. Until next time, yar mateys.